We are live. Welcome everyone. This is the Friday lunch version of the working lunch. I hope you can all hear us. I hope you can all hear Tom Elvis in the background. I came home one of the days this week with this tune in my mind, which was da 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 da. So I thought it'd be appropriate. Let me just do this so you can see what I'm seeing. Bit of Elvis on screen. So let's come back to here. So first of all, Felix, very, very welcome. Welcome everyone who's joined us on the chat and on the side. First of all, as we always ask on the working lunch, we know everyone's sitting at the desk working either at home or in the office. What has everyone had for lunch today? Felix, I'm going to ask you first of all, what have you had for lunch? Have you had any lunch?
I did have lunch with my son. So he's working. He's in school from home. We've got a lot of feedback.
Is anyone getting some echo on the line?
Me.
Oh, you might have it open in another tab, Felix. That's possible. Can you hear anything else in another tab? Anything?
Is it better now? No, yeah, okay, now it's better. Yeah, it was me. I opened another tab. It's my technology. So yes, I had lunch with my son.
Excellent. What did you have for lunch though? That's the important thing.
Just, like Ian just said on the chat, we had more like the Blaumans and we played chess. And today was the first day that I actually lost in chess to my son.
You lost in chess?
Yes.
So what age is your son?
He's 13.
13. So I have to ask you, Felix, did you let him win?
No. No, I didn't. There are certain games where you let kids win and others that you don't, because I also think they need to kind of challenge themselves. And if we've played since he's homeschooling, we always have lunch together and we play chess with each other. And he edged closer and closer, but today he finally beat me to his and his mother's delight.
It's a seminal day when your kid beats you at something. I remember with my eldest playing him at chess, and he would get really frustrated. And I'd say to him, "Look, I can let you win if you want. Do you want me to let you in?" And he stormed off in a huff. So,
now it's about the next game. If he wins the next game as well, then the momentum has clearly shifted, right? And there's no way back.
Yeah. Well, that's it. You're no good anymore. You'll have to find a better challenge elsewhere.
Exactly.
I'm going to quick run through. We've got a plowman from Ian, an arm from Elizabeth. Surely not. Louise, what have you had for your lunch?
Gin, I think. She had gin and tonic.
Gin and tonic. Yeah, she did mention that earlier on. I'm not sure if that is going to keep you going through the afternoon. Maybe it will. And we are live on Facebook. We are live on LinkedIn Live. We are live on Twitter, YouTube, and I think Twitch. So everywhere that can have us live is having us live. So that's all a good thing. Felix, the Friday show is different from the rest of the week working lunch shows, where we have guests on and we drill down into a particular topic and we get their expertise and so on. And it's not that we don't want your expertise, and it's not that you don't have expertise, but the Friday show,
thank you.
What we look for is a guest that is nimble on the feet, who can think about multiple subjects at the same time and is not short on opinions. And I reckon we couldn't go too far wrong with Mr. Wetzel. So how has your week been, Felix?
It was a really good week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a fabulous week. Not only because Liverpool won the championship,
yes,
which we obviously should talk about quite extensively, but also because it was just, I don't know, some weeks, last week was a little bit more, like a quagmire, but this week it really kicked on. I got stuff done. The pocket recruiter is working really well, and there's some big business coming through. I had some great conversations with actually nothing work related per se, like with Liz and Brandon about their stuff, then about with somebody completely different about performance, and with Bill Bowman about what he's doing with Rough Sleepers, which is obviously incredibly inspirational. It was good. Sometimes especially when you're working from home, I think you're getting so in a tunnel, so it's nice to take a balcony view and talk with other people. It helps me relax.
Yeah, yeah. So before we go on to other things, can I just double check? Because I used to work with you at Pocket Recruiter, and I love Pocket Recruiter. But in shorter summary, what's the latest development on Pocket Recruiter? Because it is a work of genius.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks. So Pocket Recruiter, we I guess since. Obviously, we're an AI matching tool. Sorry, I need to kind of we have an AI matching tool that can work with all sorts of audiences. And the one change that we did that made a big difference for us is we overlaid it with automation, because AI without automation is like a brain without a body. And that make a big difference. And so we already pre-COVID saw a big uptick in activity. But since COVID, then it was quite interesting, because now companies use Pocket Recruiter for internal mobility.
Yeah.
And even for who should we furlough, who should we bring back from furlough, when. But generally, the internal mobility piece, I think, through COVID has received an additional importance. And so that's one of the big changes for us, and we're going live with a customer in Germany in 2 weeks' time. And what we see, and I guess we've discussed it already a couple of times, is that after so around April, we had a lot of phone calls from people who said, we've had our plans to automate everything within 2 years' time. We've just been told by the board to have it automated by the September.
Whoa.
That works for us, right? Because we're an automation tool.
Yeah.
But I think it gives you a wider view of what happens in the world, that I think people are now pulling and pushing automation forwards, which obviously has an impact on the wider world. And it's not only in recruitment and HR, but in other areas as well. Just think about where they're now thinking, do we need cash? Or do we have enough cash reserves so we can give it to people who are not using credit cards, because you don't need cash anymore. Now with COVID, I hardly, you don't go around with cash anymore, right? So it's all of those things that suddenly have been triggered and pushed forwards.
So these kind of punctuation points in history have, and other folk would talk about pivots. Other people really hate the word pivot. That was a thing during the week. But in the last recession that we had in 2009, 2010, there was a huge swathe of agency recruiters who went to work for employers. So TA teams were built up in large number. And this time around, you're talking about automation. Are companies really accelerating the use of automation so that they don't bring back so many humans into those jobs?
Partly. Some people make these business cases. Other business cases are made that you bring them back into different roles. Yeah. Right. So, and I just want to point it out. I don't believe that automation is eradicating the human out of the talent acquisition, talent management. I think it's just kind of enables us to be more human, spend more time and spend more at human. I mean, there's this great, I can't remember from it now, but this great research that Bill often references, where he says, everybody wants to be automated at the beginning of the funnel, from a candidate perspective, but when it matters at the end, you want human-to-human interaction. And I think that's the thinking that we need to get our head around. As recruiters, often you hear, no, everybody wants to have human-to-human interaction right from the start, when actually, no, I don't. I want it at the end where it matters. So you see stuff like this. I also think you see, or I hope you see, that TA teams and L&D and reward all come together in a more mixed fashion, because if you include now internal mobility and contingent, and you need to actually have a much more broader and holistic view.
So if you can cut away the annoying repetitious work that people have, the admin work that they have in their day, and allow them to have more human interactions with other team members, with candidates, with hiring managers, then they're likely to enjoy their work out a bit more.
You would hope so. I think that's why most people went into HR. Let's say the talent acquisition is part of HR and recruitment is part of HR. I know it's a different debate, but that's why we went into a industry where people are at the heart of it all. Now, obviously I think there's a bigger shift, which is one also with COVID, where you see what are actually the things that we do or should focus on that make the real difference. So I see it every day in my life. If I have a to-do list of, I don't know, let's say 25 things, but there are actually 2 things in there which make a real big difference, and the rest is just me creating more noise. And actually, if I wouldn't do it, would it make a negative impact? Not necessarily. And so I think we see all of those. Or for me, a big learning with COVID and working with, I went into a course with Chris Shamrock, was all about this. What are the things I should really focus on because they make a difference? And Bill, when I spoke with him earlier this week, he said, have a think about what are the things that you liked during COVID that you also want to take to the post lockdown period, so that we don't just go back into the I know we're not going back, but back into the same mind frame. And I think that's the challenge that we should all ask ourselves. What do we do now that we want to take and still have?
I think so. You mentioned Jacob there. Jacob Sten Madsen. Jacob tends to divide people. Jacob. He thinks ahead a lot of the time. He's thinking about all the permutations on how things can develop and can work, and he campaigns incessantly for better recruitment practices. But it does rub some people up the wrong way. So it can be hard to take, but he's not often wrong. And at the very least, he's making the effort to think things through. So if you can set aside the persistent nagging of Jacob, a lot of what he says is well worth listening to. So you had a good week. Pocket Recruiters had a good week. You had good conversations.
What about you, Stephen? How was your week?
Oh, no one ever asked me that. It's been a very good week. Well, obviously, red shirt. Liverpool have won the league. Liverpool, I should stress, are my foreign team. My home team are also red and white, and that's Adrionians. But Louise down the bottom says, "I hope he's not listening." Who's she talking to? But yeah, so it's been a good week for me, largely filled with calls like this and developing a couple of websites that I'm doing. So at last, we're making good progress. Sometimes when building a website, you kind of have to wait for a bit of inspiration to strike, and in the meantime, you do a lot of the slogging. So they're coming together, which is great. So Ian Knowlson, who was a guest on last week, who's also a big Liverpool fan, his website is almost complete. And Katrina Hutchinson O'Neill, her website should be ready for going live by the end of next week. So yes, it's been a good week.
Deadlines announced live on air.
Yeah.
I hope you don't need to be like the government that you need to make a U-turn and saying, actually, I didn't say live.
The caveat was should be, but we shall see. We shall see.
Now, in our time, it's not should be, it's live, right? That's the headline. O'Donnell says website live at the end of next week.
Don't go and hold me to it. We can't do that. Felix, you know me and deadlines. So Felix, I have to ask. You have, as whenever people go on Zoom calls and they're sitting in front of a bookcase, I am always doing this to try and read what's on the bookcase behind them. You have what looks like a stupendous bookcase full of clever books. Are there any daft, silly books in there? Is it all Dostoevsky and War and Peace?
They're over there.
I see you've not organized them in color order, but are they in alphabetical order?
No, just more by topic, right? So novels. I mean, I really, for example, what I currently also read is the Witcher series.
Oh yeah.
So I quite like these books, or Game of Thrones, but it's just like reading.
You strike me as someone who does a lot of research. So you with an instruction manual that could be you for the night. You would quite enjoy that. But I've been reading a book this week called Me and White Supremacy. Sorry, I say I've been reading a book this week. I've been listening to the audio book of Me and White Supremacy, and I won't even try to summarize or give any conclusion on it, other than it's well worth a read or a listen. I was expecting to be more challenged by it, but I think different people would be challenged by it in different ways. But it's obviously a topic of the minute where people are thinking about, especially let's put it kindly, mature gentlemen, white gentlemen like you and I, who have not. Well, we have all the privilege, and we've not really suffered from any discrimination against us. But it's always illuminating to try and see the world from other people's perspective, through other folks' eyes. And I always think about that because I'm a born nosy Parker. So do you look at those things and try and envisage the world from a different perspective?
I tried to, and I listened this morning to a very good interview with the Archbishop of Canterbury, where he talked about that, yes, Jesus...
Is it John Sentinu? Is that his name?
No, Welby. Justin.
Oh, yeah.
That he, where he talked about that, you know, he was confronted with the question about the Black Lives Matter activist who said that actually Jesus isn't white and isn't a European Jesus, so we should change it, and we should maybe take those statues down. And it was quite interesting how he said where he said that he's like, yeah, he's right. You know, God isn't white. Now, I'm not a religious person, but I like the way that he said it, and where he said, like, you know, if you go to Africa, you have an African Jesus. If you go to the Middle East, you have a Middle Eastern Jesus. And I think that's, I think, for, as you said, us middle-aged white men, a very important thing to think about and try to think and have the conversations with people, because I think it's very difficult to imagine what's going on. And also, you know, the whole thing about the statues and celebrating history. Obviously, it's an interesting.
So can I ask on that topic, because we don't often have the opportunity of having an actual. I know you're now British, but you're still German. So the view of statues in Germany, I imagine, would be quite unique. Is there a perspective from there that would help us to understand how we look at statues?
Well, I think I had this debate actually a couple of times, right? And I found it interesting when Boris Johnson and other politicians talked about we need these statues because we should celebrate our history and we shouldn't Photoshop our history. And I think it's not about that. So, for example, in Germany, we're obviously we're not celebrating our history, but we're also not Photoshopping it. But we don't have statues from Hitler standing around to remind us that this was our history. But you have, for example, different ways. Like we have these Stolpersteine in front of where Jewish people went into the Holocaust, where they lived. And I think there are different ways of how you can. And I think it's different perspectives and it's different ways of doing it. But I think underlying, and that's one thing that I quite like, is, and it comes from Chris Shambrook, who's this performance coach I had the pleasure to work with. He always says, even on a individual basis, we go from self-awareness straight away to self-development. But the self-development can't be really impactful and lasting because we miss out self-acceptance. Yeah. And I think we see the same at the moment with this argument about statues. It's like, okay, we become self-aware that, yes, something was wrong, and then we want to go straight to self-development. But I think the first stage is, in a way, saying the self-acceptance of saying, yes, as a Germany, or, you know, as our nation, we did that. Yeah. And we need to accept it. We can't say, we don't want to whitewash it. Yeah. And then we can go on saying, and how now can we make sure that this is remembered and that this doesn't happen again? Yeah. But I think, but this self-acceptance, self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-development, I think you can add to anything in life. It's one of the big things that I've learned over the last couple of months, which has changed my thoughts and my belief system quite profoundly. Yeah, yeah. I'm going to. I'm just going to refresh my screen because I think my audio is a little bit wonky. Give me 2 seconds. You'll be left on screen for a half a second here. Hold on. Now it's my show. What shall we talk about? What can we say about Stephen because he's not here? Type in any question.
You can say, what a guy! What a smashing guy! Is my audio better now?
Yeah, it's as it was before.
Yeah, going back to your point about statues, the lack of statues in Germany for Hitler does not mean that people have forgotten who he was or what he did. And certainly from my perspective, and I think most sensible people, we wouldn't put any blame or responsibility on individual Germans now for what happened all that time ago. But as a mark in history, it's important to realise what happened then. Is my audio still wonky?
It was briefly, but now it's better again.
Okay. So moving on to different topics, I'm going to switch my spectacles now to red spectacles because, as we mentioned earlier, Liverpool have won the league this week. Now, it's taken 3 months to confirm this, but a nation cries out in relief that the league has finally been put to bed. In the scheme of things, it doesn't mean much more than a hill of beans, but Liverpool are obviously now European champions, world champions, world club champions, and Premiership league champions. What does that mean to you, Felix?
Hey, my youngest son is a Liverpool fan, so it fills him with joy. It fills me with joy, right? I like the way that they played football, so that was fabulous.
Does it help that they have a German manager?
No, I don't mind the nationality, but I like him. I think he's a great guy.
He is.
Well, I haven't met him, but the way that he comes across, I think he's a fabulous guy, and I like the way that he comes across. I like the passion that he shows, and that he also stays loyal to a team. But but it doesn't really matter that he's German. I think when you look at it, you don't really realize it anymore. I don't realize it anymore, but
yeah. I think it really helps. So obviously, being German, as I say, I'm only joking about that, but he's got an amazing sense of humour, and of course, that's what Scousers are famous for. So that tying in with the club, he takes his work seriously, but he has a laugh while he's doing it. So it's one of those things where to bring a club like Liverpool back to the very top, and at the same time be so far ahead of everyone else who has spent a fortune building teams. Not that Liverpool haven't spent a lot of money, but I think it's really quite something. Now, if we go on about football much more, I think we might lose more of our audience. So moving swiftly on. In terms of other things that have been in the news this week, what has stood out to you that's remarkable, Felix, in the news?
I mean, there's so many remarkable things at the moment, right? But I guess, I was interested in the whole Keir Starmer yesterday, the news, and obviously mainly how this compares against different styles of politicians.
Yeah.
That was interesting. Also interesting to actually read the interview. Interesting how fast he reacted and how harsh he reacted, which I think is good. And it's and then the other, obviously, I guess the interesting bit for me is you have on the one hand side somebody like Boris Johnson, who everybody has their own opinion, but I'm always surprised that he is where he is.
I heard on Radio Scotland this morning, Keir Starmer was in the middle of an interview with someone on Radio Scotland, and they asked him live in the interview about this, and he said, I'll definitely be taking measures. And in the course of the interview, while the interview was going, an announcement came out from Labour HQ saying that Rebecca Long-Bailey had been asked to resign. So he was clearly doing two things at one time. He was in the interview and sending off a missive for that. The interviewer got the message back that had been sent out, and then in the interview asked Keir Starmer about that very thing. So it was literally, it was kind of a firing on air, and it was quite bizarre to see. Now, I really like Keir Starmer. Anyone called Keir has got my vote.
Did you name your son after him?
I did. Well, no, my son was named after Keir Hardie, who was the founder of the Labour Party,
which Keir Starmer was named after as well.
Yeah. Keir Hardie was born about 3 miles from where I grew up. So in the town where I grew up in Airdrie, there's various streets that are named after Keir Hardie. So it's a big thing there. But that said, I've never actually voted Labour, so read into that what you will. But Keir Starmer, I have to say, more than anyone would tempt me to think about it. But going back to this from a recruitment point of view, in recruitment and HR, what he showed there was an absolute zero tolerance. You could easily argue the case that what she did was she retweeted someone else, said that person was a star, but didn't mention within the article there was a component that spoke about a conspiracy theory on on police in Israel. From my point of view, I'm not sure that she was wrong, but she showed a distinct lack of care in reading through it and thinking about the ramifications. So I think you could read it both ways, that Keir Starmer did the right thing or overreacted. I think on balance did the right thing because he has to show examples. But also this is someone who was a rival of his for the leadership. So maybe there was something going on there as well.
Well, I guess the interesting bit is if you think about culture, right? When you think about, when companies saying these are now the new ways that we behave, these are the new values, and they go through the whole branding and understanding their values and understanding their vision and mission. The difficulty there is that then some of the old guys or somebody on the board behaves still in the old way.
Yeah.
Right. And now if you let it go, you've just undermined all of the work that you've done of changing your culture, what you stand for.
Absolutely.
And that's why I think so often culture changes don't really happen in organizations. It's just being put out to, in a way, like bread for the masses and saying, look, we listen to you, we've put this out, but actually we don't change. We just kind of tell you to change. And I think that's where, if you look at for just from a culture perspective, he said that he wouldn't accept it. Therefore, even if one of the top people at the top table does it, more than anything, he needs to react to it, because otherwise all of the new culture, the new behaviors, the new behaviors, if you don't push this through, then you're clearly saying, well, actually it's just words.
Well, so in terms of setting an example, though, as such a big head in Labour to be taken out in that way, that absolutely shows that there's no tolerance for even the slightest transgression. So if you're some minor party official or councillor or whatever under Labour, then don't expect to be given the benefit of the doubt. There's a zero tolerance, and it's putting a hard line in the sand. This will not be stood for. I think it's a good thing, but I think it's a hard thing to stick to.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's certainly. I guess it's also showed in comparison to the Cummings affair, or Robert Jenkins at the moment, where you think like, okay, so on the one hand side you can get away with it, and therefore, in a way, by protecting Dominic Cummings out of whatever reason, whatever you think is good or bad, you now cannot really say I don't like your behavior and you have to resign.
I see Elizabeth on the side says here, believing opting out as a leadership team is an option is the death knell of cultural renovation. I absolutely right. One rule for everyone else: do as I say, but not as I do. Is just not sustainable. Not sustainable at all. Moving on, another subject that came up again. You might think this is trivial, but it speaks to the times that we're in. Remember back during the times of George Bush II. When the Dixie Chicks came out and said that they didn't like George Bush, and suddenly they lost all of the bookings. Everyone was coming out against them. Well, this week, in fact, I think just yesterday, they've decided to drop the Dixie from their name. So from now on, it's going to be called the Chicks. Now, I love the Chicks. I think the Chicks music is phenomenal, but dropping Dixie from the name. Is it virtue signaling? Is it saying we're better than everyone else? Is it saying look at us doing the right thing, or is it actually doing the right thing?
Oh, I don't know, right? I haven't spoken with them, but my view is, of course, I give people the benefit of the doubt, right? Actions speak louder than words. They have done it. They haven't just said something, and now it's let's see what happens next. But I think it's the right thing. The question is, would they have to drop Chicks as well?
Well, yeah. Could you say that Chicks is? Well, I suppose if they are the Chicks and they're embracing Chicks, then
that's true.
you could say that they're entitled to. Elizabeth says here that they've dropped a great track. What was the track that they dropped? Is there it wouldn't be Goodbye Earl. It wouldn't be Ready to Run. What would be the track that they had to drop? Please put your answer on the side, Elizabeth. James turned up. James, what time do you call this? Of more notes, and I was trying to explain to someone yesterday why we feel that we are entitled to have an opinion on Trump and all that's going on over there. Well, first of all, in Scotland, we feel partly responsible because he is partly half Scottish, and he's rubbed the Scottish government up the wrong way several times. And a friend of mine, Janie Godley, was the one with the banner on his golf course that time. But 4 years ago this week, before he was elected, and now everyone realizes that she was correct. But this week, just in time for the election, Trump is trying to push through the Supreme Court the avoidance of Obamacare, which takes 23 million Americans out of insurance. That can't be surely a good thing electorally. That's not going to win you votes, or is it? What do you think?
Oh, we've got a YouTube video from Elizabeth. Sorry.
I'll take that out while you answer.
No, well, I guess first of all, let me just go a step back where I think I know, Donald Trump is his own peculiar person, but we here in the UK have, and this, I sometimes find it difficult to judge Americans or Americans' politics too harshly, seeing that actually, in the UK that has been, look what's happening in the UK, look what's happening in Hungary, what in Poland, and nobody really talks about it. And I know, obviously, the United States is much more important in terms of geopolitics about it. Yeah. But I guess the question more to ask for me is like, what triggers it? Why do people vote for it? Why Donald Trump, not at the moment, but why do some of those people still have this such a great majority? Why do parliaments or parties quite happily vote with them and restrict their power? You could see here in the UK that suddenly the Tory parliament will vote that they don't have any power anymore, as happened in Hungary. So I think that's I find that fascinating. I find it interesting, and I guess it also shows that we need to really, really disrupt and innovate the political system. That's one of the, recruitment was one of the last things that never got really digitalized until now, when we can use, when we can read unstructured data. Yeah. But I think there's other systems like the political system that hasn't been touched yet by disruption. The economical system is now being touched by disruption. So I think that's the next big place that we need to, trail our sides out and saying, okay, what next? And I think it's on us to decide, it's our time now, right? We live now in this reality. We have the chances now. So what can we now do to change, what reality do we want to live in? Yeah. Where do we want to live?
It is quite shocking and surprising when you see the ways in which, or the multiple really old-fashioned ways in which voting is carried out. Not only in the States, but in all parts of the world, where you're either relying on pieces of paper or post-in ballots, or turning up and doing your thing there. Sometimes they have the electronic machines which don't work. Sometimes they have the lever for the hanging chads, and of course Donald Trump has come out and said in advance of the election, where he's already in charge of the government and it's a Republican Senate, he's saying in advance that this is going to be the most corrupt election in history. So who's in charge? If this is a corrupt election and he's in charge, then wouldn't that be his fault? It is quite bizarre, and absolutely you have to think there's got to be ways in which this can be changed. They also decided that the more people who vote, the less likely the Republicans are going to win. So they need to make sure that as few people as possible vote. It used to be in the UK that if the voting day was a sunny day, then Labour would do well. But if it was raining, because Labour supporters were less likely to have a car to drive to the voting booth, then in the rain, the Tories are more likely to do well. Yeah, we need to modernise these things. We would love, I know you would love, some form of proportional representation. We tried to get that through a few years ago here. Didn't quite come off. It was a soft version of it, but we're all in a position now where we can't do anything in the UK until the next general election, which is going to be in another 4 years' time.
Yeah, true. But it's not only, I think for me, what I've learned, especially from talking with Bill, he shows it in practice that actually you can do a lot of stuff on a local level.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of distributed power and local decision making.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't know enough how it works with Obamacare, but having should you, and this has been discussed here in Germany, it has been discussed in the US, or in the UK, where it's all about actually the different parts of the country have slightly different needs. Therefore, you need to tailor the service that you deliver to those people.
Yeah. Seeing aside there that on Facebook, Jacob has said Adam Gordon posted something last night where he showed a CI Pocket Recruiter and Smashfly set up A to Z automation. Can you say anything about that, Felix?
Well, it's Candidate Pocket Recruiter and Horsefly, actually, not Smashfly.
Yep.
Yes, we are working with a client that currently still remains unnamed, and we have, in a way, come together as 3 startups, HR tech startups, to see how can we use our strength to build an end-to-end automated system. And again, end-to-end automated, there's still humans going to be involved. Don't get me wrong, but the top of the hiring funnel. And I'm very excited. I think it's great to see that there are great tools out there. And the other, obviously, we are also integrated with Launchpad. Not Launchpad, with Danny Hodgson with Foresight. And it's these there are loads of great point solutions, but the beauty is these days that through API you can actually integrate them quite easily, and and that's what we're doing there. So we'll try it for this one client, we'll build it for this one client, and then obviously we have a blueprint, and then we'll take it to more clients.
I noticed that post myself, and Adam pointed out that who needs an ATS if you've got Horsefly, Candidate ID, and Pocket Recruiter, and of course the ATS that is built in with Pocket Recruiter itself is very, very good. But if you're adding on additional functionality, I could see how that would be that'd be a cracking tool.
Yes, and there's obviously we. Absolutely. I guess it's for me, it's a passion thing for me, where you say, actually don't just look at the tools and replace one ATS with another ATS, look at your overall process and how do you change the piping and the underlying piping so that you get better stuff out there. And I believe that's what we're doing with the 3 companies together. And it's well exciting because we can learn from each other, and it's fun working with different people in different companies. Yeah.
So I know we're flipping to from smash to trash. We're talking about trivial and important and recruitment and the world out there. That's the nature of the show on a Friday. Can I ask, have you booked your summer holiday yet, Felix?
I had a summer holiday booked. Let's see if this still happens, and otherwise, no.
Oh, okay. Because apparently, now that Boris has said England is open. If you want to book a week in Newquay, then you've no chance, because in the past couple of days they've just been chock-a-block with wall-to-wall bookings. There's no way you can get down to anywhere in Cornwall. So if anyone has a cottage going in Cornwall, please let me know. I'd definitely be very interested.
Yeah.
But it seems that the world and his wife are getting out there, mask or no mask. In Scotland, we're still formally locked down. It's loosened a little bit, but the pubs and clubs are not opening here just yet. I say that as my office is above 2 restaurants, and they're going to be a while before they can open. Louise has booked her campsite in Newquay. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, Louise, I think it's going to be pretty packed in Newquay. So look forward to big crowds on the beach and in the campsite. Long queues for the toilet block as ever. Make sure you bring your porta potty. Ian, I think, has booked his haircut. One other big piece of news this week. I need to say, I cut my own hair this week. Now it's a bit ropey, but I don't have much to work with in the first place, but it was getting a bit shaggy. It was getting a bit like Felix's, frankly. Although Felix does have a full head of hair. Felix, have you not had your hair cut since February?
Yeah, I did.
You did?
Yeah, I had it cut before everything closed down, just by sheer coincidence.
Okay.
And then my wife had a go at it as well to kind of keep it somehow. Which I mean, I most admire Hung's, what Hung put up on Facebook where he showed the different stages. That was kind of.
Well, I think his brother was trying to encourage him and his sister to have the mohawk because he's got the material for it, and I think it'd suit a mohawk, but it does look kind of cool. The reason I did it this week was the attachment for the clippers that I needed came from Amazon on Wednesday. So as soon as I got home, it was straight up to thin this barnet down. But yeah, I'm a very balding chap, so my head recedes more than Blackpool Beach. So I don't have that much to go on with. I've just noticed time-wise, we're up to 40 minutes. We typically go to about this at 45, but I'm gonna wrap up there. Felix, before you go, can you tell me what do you have in store for next week? What's your plans for next week?
I haven't yet thought this far.
But you're the meticulous organizer. You're the man with the to-do lists up the wazoo. Surely you must know what's going on next week.
Well, actually, I have my review planned for 5 o'clock today. When I look at how was this week and what is going to be focused next week. I mean, so I guess it will be similar like this with lots of excitement. I'm very excited because I'm going to see one of my good friends in person, obviously in social distancing. So I think that's partly the highlight. And otherwise, I'm a little bit, I guess, at the moment with COVID-19, it makes no sense to plan too far out. So I normally have a program of 90 days, 60 days plans, and I normally have a week on week to see how to adjust and what to do next.
Fantastic. And the weekend, are you going out on the lake at the weekend, or are you going to keep to your back garden?
No, I think we normally go walking. A couple of hours where we are in the countryside, so we'll do that as well. Play some tennis with my boys.
Superb.
Yeah, that's it.
Can they beat you yet at tennis?
Not yet, no.
So
not long though. After chess, I think they set their side in the next thing.
Well, that's it. They'll mentally be ticking off the things I'm better at my dad at doing. The things where I can just completely embarrass them. So chess, tick. Tennis is coming up, so come soon. Does anyone else have any questions before we wrap up for the day? We've got Audra, Elizabeth, Ian, Louise. Anyone else? Any questions? No. On that note, in that case, I'm going to say thank you very much, Felix, for coming on. It's been great to see you again. Thanks everyone who's joined in, everyone who's been chatting on the side, everyone who's been watching us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Everyone out there, please join us again on Monday. We have a full lineup of guests next week. Let me just recap on the guests next week. From Monday, we have Louise has said interviewing Erica Clifford, diversity and inclusion. Have recruitment agencies got it right? Claire on Tuesday has Shelley Gaffan, COVID choices, challenges and impact. That'll be marketing oriented. GPS, Graham Palfrey-Smith has Gavin White on Wednesday, how to survive and thrive losing 98% of your business. That sounds quite tricky. And Debbie Easterday, the lovely Debbie Easterday, on Thursday next week with Ashley Bowman. I don't know what to say isn't good enough. So that'll be interesting. Now, I haven't confirmed the guest for next Friday. If there are any fabulous guests out there, fabulous people in our sector out there who would like to be a guest on this very show this time next week, please let me know. But having said all that, thank you very much again. I'm going to wrap up there. Felix, always a pleasure, never a chore. I hope to see you very soon.
Absolutely. Take it easy, Stephen.